time here at PIC. I'm Carrie, this is my partner Stacy, and we have a business called Socially Safe Social Media. We are moms, we are local, we understand the social media online world. We actually both have our own businesses. We have partnered together to create Socially Safe Social Media. We have kids ranging from 8 to 16. We have both males and females, so we really are immersed in this. We get the struggles that parents go through with their kids wanting Snapchat, wanting to be on this, wanting to be on that, and not understanding why. We get the background information of social media and how it all works. And so we've taken the knowledge that we've got and we've applied it, and we've put together these programs where we go into the schools, we go into community programs, and we do workshops for the kids as well as for the parents. We do social media, we do cyberbullying. With our high school level kids, we really talk to them about becoming a digital leader and how they can use social media for the positive. We hear so much negative about social media, but we really like social media. We think it's great. And when we talk to the kids, we don't tell them that we don't want them on. We don't use the negatives with them. We inform them and we educate them. We make them aware of how they can use it safely, which I think is a really key point, because the kids, we're giving them these devices and we're saying, have fun. They are growing up in this world, they are immersed in this world. The schools have embraced technology, they are using it at school, and us as parents, we don't have a clue what is going on with it. And so we really need to start educating ourselves about all of this online world.
So the kids are always fascinated when we go into school and they say, guess what? We're actually going to tell you that we want you to be online. And I'm like, what, really? You're not going to tell us to get off with that stuff. So our last session was a lot about cyberbullying, but this session we're actually going to talk about digital leadership, because we actually want them to be able to use it. We want them to be able to showcase all the positive stuff that they're doing in their life, and they actually want to walk the walk and actually perhaps influence other kids to be able to use it in a positive way as well. Because there's a lot of opportunity, as we all know, with technology in regards to knowing everybody's every move, almost online. So how do we use that and how do we frame it with the kids? Because now that they're a little bit older, I mean, we're not talking, grades 4 here, where we actually do go into the younger grades, because we want to set them up for success right in the beginning, before they start doing too much. Because again, they've been brought into this world, and they don't have the fears around it, but sometimes they don't have the knowledge of the impacts that they have, which is where the digital leadership program actually comes into play. So it's really interesting to understand what the kids are doing online. Most of the time they're chatting with their friends, but doing their selfies, all of that kind of stuff. But they're following celebrities, they're doing homework. The schools have Twitter feeds. I have a girlfriend, she teaches grade 8, and the whole conversation on her Twitter feed is all about the homework and what she's doing in class. So if the kids want to actually find out what to do or have any more questions, they have to go to Twitter. So we've used the world of social media in so many different ways now. It's, obviously that's what we do for a living, so it's easy for us to keep track and keep up with it.
Kids young, so that they understand that what happens on social media stays on social media. So if they don't want grandma to see it, or they don't want it to be on the front page of the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, whatever, don't put it up there for all to see.
Or on the opposite front, again, keeping in mind that these kids are now going to be looking for volunteer positions. Perhaps they're going to be a little bit younger, they're getting into babysitting, or perhaps they're even leaving high school and wanting to go to university. This is the place where people are doing searches now. This is not just go on Google and put in someone's name or accepting a resume and going, oh, you referred your kid to me, so now I'm going to accept her as a babysitter. I'm actually now going to social media and seeing, okay, well, what is their actual life doing? It's a different conversation that we need to be having, and they will be Googled for volunteer positions, they will be Googled for their university, and they definitely will be Googled when it comes to getting a job. That is as simple as it gets. So for them to understand how their digital footprint is going to impact literally the rest of their lives is really important for them to understand, and it's really important for parents to understand. Now, of course, for us, of course we would want this particular picture on the front page of the whatever, New York Times or whatever. This is us getting our Cyber Academy certificates. But if it was something of us doing something a little bit different or maybe not so good, you know, we wouldn't want that there. So it's just to show kids that yes, when we post something on the internet, you might as well take out a billboard and put it right in Times Square because everybody's going to see it. And they go, oh, okay, yeah. And it's also an understanding that I can take that photo. You post on a photo, I can now take that photo of you. I'm like, oh, you're pretty. You can work for my advertising, you know, pamphlet or flyer or whatever. And we've talked to high school kids in the front row, and they've gone, well, you can't do that. Yeah, I can. You post it on the internet, and we now lose control, complete control over what happens to that photo. So it really does impact. And it's not just the photos that they take themselves, it's the photos that their friends are taking. So it's really understanding that now everybody has a device. And I always say, you know, thank goodness the internet was not invented before I was young. But in today's world, with the kids, everyone has a phone, and everybody always has a phone ready to take a photo of every single moment of every single of their lives. So it's just really understanding what you're doing, how you're doing it, and when you're doing it, and who's around you.
And with the kids, a lot of times we show them Alex from Target. We all know the story about Alex from Target, an innocent young boy working hard, and all of a sudden a girl snapped a picture of him because she thought he was cute, started using some hashtags, tagging it. He got brought onto the Ellen show. Well, what would have happened if that same picture that went viral, and while Alex was actually working, he was doing something wrong? Right? He was an innocent bystander, and his world just got rocked. And luckily, he was doing positive and doing a good job at work. But if that picture had him doing something different, it would have completely changed how things went.
And it's just really important, especially as the kids get a little bit more deeper into and more using the social media, for them to understand some of the consequences, but also understanding how to frame it in a positive way.
So what are our kids sharing online? Our kids are sharing their real names. They're sharing their birth dates. They're sharing where they are. They're sharing their cell phone numbers. They're sharing their schools. They're just putting selfies up and videos. Kids are also sharing where we work. And so we need to really start talking to our kids about how much information and what personal information we are sharing out there. So these are all percentages and by the ages. So you can see there's a lot of personal information that's being shared.
Now, this is only a few of the social media sites out there. If you're not familiar with them, your kids are. And this is, and I can guarantee you that probably since I've done the slide, there's definitely been some new ones that I don't have up here, so I apologize for that, but I kind of ran out of room. So my next time I do it, I'm going to have to make them much smaller, but I didn't want to do that because this is overwhelming enough. I have parents who go, just at this slide, and new ones do come out. So we're definitely keeping up to date. Now again, a lot of them are, kids think that they're anonymous, or they're timed, or, you know, by the time you look at this particular snap, it's gone in 10 seconds. We all know that's not true. We need to emphasize the kids. There's no such thing as anonymous on the internet, and there's no such thing as deleting or disappearing. It's not gone, it's on a server. Accessible, so be careful what you put out there because it will be found. Same thing, right? Just think billboard.
So again, just understanding what these platforms are, how they work, and where our kids are online is so important, and it's something that we now need to do as parents. Even if you don't have any intention of putting a tweet out yourself, if your kids are on Twitter, you guys need to be on Twitter, just so you understand how it works. If your kids are using Snapchat, you need to be on Snapchat. I have Snapchat, I use it for my businesses. I don't like Snapchat. I don't use it to snap my daughters or my sons or anything like that. I have it so I understand how these platforms are working.
And it's also to actually be following your kids. And I know sometimes, I don't want mom to be, you know, liking my pictures and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, you know what, then create a fake account. You don't have to be mysterious about it. I'm going to be, you know, Stacy XYZ, or I'm going to pretend to make up some other username. My son knows it's me, but his friends don't. So I can still follow him, and I can still say double tap on Instagram and click like, so that we're still connected, but his friends aren't like, oh yeah, your mom likes all your pictures, right? It's just taking that right out of the equation, so that they don't have to know who everybody is.
And you don't have to put your own picture up. So if you've got favorite piece of art you like, or a picture you like, or an animal if you're a horse lover, whatever. Google and find a picture so that you're not identified, so that their friends won't know. So that's the biggest thing with the kids is they don't want to be connected to us online. They don't want their friends to see that mommy follows them, right? So just create that fake account. Nobody has to know that it's not you, but make sure your child understands that this is me and I will follow you. So if you're going to be online.
Now, we always make sure that we emphasize privacy settings on the different accounts to make sure that they are in control of who follows them. Obviously, my own personal business account is wide open, so therefore, I'm careful with what I share and what I don't share because the world can see it. But we really want to emphasize with the kids to make sure that their privacy settings are a little bit higher so they can control and say, yes, I agree that you can follow me. And I actually go through the thing with my son. I go through his feed and say, okay, who are all these people and do you know them in real life? And if he doesn't, then we have discussions to why he's accepting followers of people he doesn't know. He can follow the world, go ahead. He's following every sports team in the world and anybody that has anything to do with sports. And that's okay, but the people who follow him because his account is private is really important. Now, we have blocked out some stuff on this particular one, but what we like about it is the fact that there's no identifying features. The username doesn't have anything to do with her name. Even the profile picture, we have no idea who this is. So the only people that can follow are the ones that she tells her username to. So it's just making sure that they understand why they need to have their settings so high in regards to privacy, but also for parents, for you guys to understand why the privacy settings are there so that you can actually go home and look at your kids' accounts and see, are they private or are they public? And just understanding that if they're public, and we'll show you a couple of things in a minute about how that can impact them.
Yeah, the other thing is, when you're asking your kids and you're following your kids, leave the passwords. Because behind all of these apps, this is great, I can be connected and I can see this, but behind all of these apps, if I were to actually hit this little icon and log in as my child, I can now see all the private messaging. Without my password and logging in as if I was that child, then I miss all that private messaging, and that's where all the things are happening. With an Instagram account, which this is, you can actually tag and have a group chat with up to 25 different friends.
That's going on behind the scenes.
That's going on behind the scenes. So if I'm just following my child and looking and saying, okay, great, they're only posting pictures of this and that, they're not putting any selfies up there, they're not putting any identifying features and information, they're doing exactly what I've said, awesome job. Without actually logging in as my child, and I do it with my child so that we go through it and we have a discussion and we talk and we see about it. They know I have the password, and we have times where we sit down and we go into their social media accounts and we look at things together. I know that my kids have been bullied. I know what the language of their friends is offline. I can see that, and we talk about that. We also talk about the definition of a friend. We now have to change what a friend is, because we've all had this conversation with our kids about what's a friend and how do we interact with our friends. Well, now we need to have the conversation about how do you interact with these online worlds of friends. Because I play Minecraft every day at 4 o'clock and I've gotten to know user 123, is he now my friend? So when he says to me, let's meet at the park, do I go? Okay, we have to really change our stranger danger conversation to include stranger danger online.
So before we get into too much craziness, can anyone tell me what a hashtag is? Does everyone see? Go ahead.
It makes those words so that you can do a search. It's a common type of, for Twitter, hashtag means if you put hashtag Halton PIC 2015 and you do a search, every tweet that's gone to that will be there in that. Right?
Yeah, so it's like a searchable subject. So thanks.
Thank you.
Exactly, so it's a searchable subject, but the kids are not understanding the impact that it has on their world. So I remember, I think it was one time we were in a classroom, and I said, does everyone here use hashtags? And they all put up their hand. I said, who knows what a hashtag is? And they all put down their hand. So the kids actually don't understand what the hashtag is, but they feel pressured to use it because they're on Instagram, and Instagram says you should use up to 25 hashtags in a post, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's really interesting that the one kid I asked, I said, well, what hashtag do you use? And he goes, well, I don't know what to use, so I just use hashtag. But they feel pressured to use a hashtag. So again, in understanding the whole concept of being a leader and actually using it to their advantage, what are people searching for that they might want to be found? So again, using the hashtag for today is great. Halton PIC 2015. So anybody who looks, if Kelly puts a tweet out and they click on that hashtag, they're going to see all the other tweets. So understanding, so for example, with my son, he's a big hockey player. I take your picture of him on the ice in his Rangers uniform, and I'm hashtagging hockey. So again, it makes it a public tweet, but if somebody's looking for hockey, you know, again, just understanding how to kind of frame that in a positive way, because I'm helping him create a positive digital footprint for his future by doing that. And parents have a huge impact on, because we take pictures of our kids all the time, so what are we actually putting out there about them and what hashtags are we using?
Good question. So when they use hashtags, is that why sometimes, if my daughter does hashtags, is that why sometimes people are requesting to follow her?
Yeah.
They would find a
that
hashtag.
some guy.
Yeah.
Because even though their accounts may be private and you've done everything you can, as soon as you use a hashtag, it becomes a public searchable thing. So you don't even have to actually be on Twitter to use a hashtag. So if you go into Google and put hashtag Halton PIC 2015, you can still see all the posts from today that are popping up. If you put come together for the Blue Jays, you'll see all the Blue Jay posts about come together. So whatever it is, so even though the accounts are public or private, it now becomes public and searchable. You look confused, you understand that?
I think so,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not private still, so even though we made it, like, she made her Instagram private, but she puts a hashtag,
It's
all of a sudden
hashtag,
it's not private.
it's searchable and it's public. So that's why it's really important that the kids understand and they don't just start hashtagging silly things, because those silly things and start sayings and things like that are now searchable. So they really have to think about how they're using their hashtags.
Like I use silly ones, like I'll take a picture of cats and I'll go cats of Instagram, hashtag cats of Instagram. And, because it's a big thing on Instagram. And all of a sudden I have 10 followers. They don't know who I am, but they know I use that hashtag. So therefore, apparently they think I like cats, which I do, but it's nothing like that on my profile. So that's where, exactly, so new people will find you. So from a business perspective, you know, the one that we use the most is socially safe. Obviously, that's our business. But we'll also use hashtag cyberbullying, hashtag social media. There's lots of things that we do from a business perspective. So if someone's searching for that, then our stuff will come up. So there's lots of business pros that you can use hashtags for. But it's just making the kids aware of what they're using it for and not just doing silly things. And I said, you know, my husband does, you know, I don't care about something, hashtag, it's a really long thing. I said, you do realize that no one cares what that is and no one knows what that is and it doesn't mean anything, right? He's like, yeah, but I don't care.
So, understanding hashtags is a really key important thing for us, but it's also the next slide that we're going to go into, and that's our geotagging. So what happens is on our phones and our devices, we have an ability to say where we are. So if I happen to be here and I have my location setting on and I take a picture, as soon as I upload that picture, I now have a map to where I am.
So for example, you know, this is just, you know, a picture, it's a grocery store, no big deal, but it's just a map to where it is.
And so you can see it. So you don't need any special devices or programs or anything like that. You can find out where you are. So what we always tell parents is to actually shut the location settings off on the photos only. That way, if they lose their phones, they lose their devices, or if you happen to be watching and find my friend, you can see where your child is. You can still find their phones. But when they take a selfie or they take those pictures, it's not uploading the photos.
Especially in schools, right?
Yeah.
They're taking all kinds of photos in their schools. So it's just talking about being safe, especially in the house. So the next couple of slides, I just want to be able to really showcase how a hashtag can work from a privacy perspective. So this is a search that I did on Instagram. It was babysitting because I needed some kids to help. I needed somebody to actually babysit my kids, so it was prevalent in my head. Now, I wonder what people are putting on Instagram in regards to babysitting, so we go back to the hashtag. And a whole bunch of posts came up, but I found this one the most interesting. So this is a girl who's babysitting. She's, you know, obviously taking a selfie of herself and the child that she's babysitting. She's using hashtag babysitting. We've got her, the girl's name is Keely something. She's using all
hashtag it.
She's hashtag babysitting.
She's hashtag babysitting, hashtag cuddle, hashtag little monkey, hashtag cheese, hashtag fun day, hashtag lover.
But the interesting thing is that, and this is changing the conversation that we're having when kids are of that babysitting age, is that now they're putting themselves at risk, and they're putting the child that they're babysitting at risk. Because what's happening here is that not only do I know that she's babysitting, I know that she's home alone. Right? Because people don't babysit when you're home. So she's home alone, and I think that's, and I know when we showed this slide in the schools, what do you know about her? And nobody says that she's home alone. And they go, oh, right. So that's how a hashtag can really, so she's thinking that she's being innocent. I'm taking my selfie, I've got my location settings turned on, I'm doing the hashtag babysitting because that's what we do as teenagers. And you remember the map slide that we just showed you, well now I can see that picture and now I can find out exactly where she lives. And then she's home alone and now she's putting herself in a vulnerable place. So if you want to talk about being a digital leader, you also have to keep yourself safe online and make sure what you're putting out there is really good information and not putting yourself at risk.
And the other conversation we need to have is when we have babysitters into our homes, we need to now say to our babysitters, we're hiring, my child is not to be posted, there are no pictures allowed to be taken in my house, at the park, wherever we are. We now need to include that in our babysitting list of what we're giving our babysitters, our emergency contact information and everything else, because they do it innocently and they do not realize that you can get the maps and you can get all this information. So we have to change our conversation. I know when my daughter goes to babysit, I always say to her, remember, don't take any pictures of the baby. It's second nature to these kids. They grow up with these devices, they don't know any different. So that's why we have to start putting it into their head constantly and saying things to them so they will remember.
And it also is really important to, I know that I've seen as I'm going through my son's feed, I actually see stuff with his friends. And I'll see pictures of them in front of their house and they're talking about, you know, hashtag Oakville and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's really important. So he's actually gone back to his friends and said, you know what, you need to turn your location settings off. Or my mom said, of course, because I'm a social media mom. But you know, we know now where you live because of the photo that you took in front of your house. So it was a really good opportunity for him to be that digital leader, to be able to help his friends stay safe online as well, and really help them grow and understand what to do online to be able to not only keep themselves safe, but yes, you can do it. And I think this is, again, a different conversation. We're talking about some negative stuff, we'll get to the positive stuff in a minute. But we're telling them to do it, but just making sure they're doing it safely.
Pretty much everybody, right?
Yeah.
How many of them took them outside the front step? How many people posted them up onto your social media platforms and Facebook and stuff? Majority of people did. Majority of people didn't have their location settings posted.
And their addresses right in the
background pictures. So things for us to be conscious of as well, and we have to be the lead by example for these kids.
Now, of course, there is age restrictions on social media sites. Vine happens to be one that is 17. Most of them, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, is 13. We have a lot of parents who are actually going out there and creating accounts for their kids at a young age and changing the birthdays.
Or the kids are doing it themselves and hoping we don't find out, right? Let's be honest.
But now when you're getting into older, you're getting into more of that, 16, 17, of course, that's great. They can have access, they can set up, they're actually following the law, which is not a problem, but just making sure that you guys understand that there actually is reasons behind the age restrictions, and they're actually there to protect your kids. So don't create fake accounts for your kids.
Well, and the other thing is, if you want to explain to your children why, it is actually the child protection law, and a business is not allowed to collect personal information from a child. Facebook is a business, Twitter is a business, Instagram is a business, Snapchat, all of those platforms are businesses. So as soon as they start asking for any personal information, including your child's name, it is now collecting information. As soon as you change the date of birth to make it so that it can be, if your child's 12 and you think, okay, yeah, sure, they can go online, no problem, and it says 17, and you've said, sure, change your date of birth, you were born 5 years earlier, and you now have gone, you have made that contract null and void. So they can now collect any information from what your child is posting and the videos. So just making yourself aware, if you really don't want your kids on that, explain to them, there is a law, you cannot have this, and this is the reasoning why.
Yeah, my son's been asking for Facebook for 4 years. So what we want to get into is just understanding, just really quickly going through the different types of apps for you guys to understand who, what, when, and how. These are just a few of the photo sharing apps, so very typical ones, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. Love to take their selfie photos. Again, understanding that who owns that photo, going back to the example that I used before, once you've posted something, anybody can now use those photos. The privacy settings, what's in the background of the photos, again, understanding like the first day of school photos, like we said. So these are very typical places, again, the geotagging, but all of the apps, unfortunately with the good is also the bad, right? And a lot of them are used for cyberbullying behind the scenes.
Can you guys explain how geotagging works?
That's your map.
That's the map?
Yeah, your geotagging is the map, so it's the same as location settings. So if you go into your phones and you're looking at location settings, it's geotagging is the other term that's used for it. But it's the exact same thing, it just uploads the map to the social platforms. So there's a lot of video sharing apps. These ones are really popular with the kids, and that's because so many of them are anonymous. So again, Instagram, you can now start sharing video, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Snapchat. Ask.fm is one the kids love. It's one we hate, but the kids love it. They all want to be on it. Does anybody know what Ask.fm is? It's very, very popular. So the kids basically ask a question, and anybody can answer it.
All
anonymous.
So, put that in
Do
your
you
quote,
think
because it's
that
all-
Jenny is ugly, fat, whatever, and everybody gets a chance to answer that? It's a horrible, awful, awful one. I see some faces going, oh my gosh. It is a terrible one. You really, we need to have the conversation with our kids and start talking to them about what we're doing online. And so that's why it's important to start making ourselves aware of these. Even if your kids aren't at the age yet that they're going to be on Snapchat or anything else, you should still be starting to watch them and listening, reading the articles you're seeing online about them, so you have a general understanding about them. And so these ones are all video sharing apps, and they're growing daily. If your kids have a Gmail account, they actually have a YouTube channel. With Gmail now, you are given a YouTube channel, which means they can upload videos and they can post and publish. So you make yourself aware of that.
What happens on social media stays on social media.
Yeah. So again, go ahead.
Okay.
There's lots of anonymous apps. We're seeing more and more and more every day.
It's not anonymous, by the way.
The app, which is this symbol here, is really popular with the kids right now. That one is anonymous, and it's also location-based. So I can be here, I can turn it on, and I can see anybody's posting within a 5-kilometer radius. So if you're in certain areas, it may not be so bad. If you're further, let's say we're downtown in Toronto, your posts are going to be a lot different than what we might be seeing here in Halton. We have that app. I've gone on, I've seen, does anybody want to hook up? I've seen, where can I buy weed? We need to know what these kids are doing. I've seen positive stuff. I'm feeling really sad today. Can anybody talk? So the kids are using these devices to vent. They're using, to reach out, to get some help, to connect with people. Again, anonymous, and you don't know who it is. You're just, when you go onto it, it's a little icon, and that's it. And you don't get to choose your icon.
Now, unfortunately, there is some negative stuff to these particular apps because the kids think it's anonymous and it's not. Obviously, sexual predators, personal attacks, cyberbullying are huge with these apps, but really emphasizing the fact that nothing is ever anonymous when you post it online.
Can you explain why you're saying that? Like, if you're only texting, like, how is it not anonymous? I don't think I'm following.
How is it not anonymous?
Yeah.
Because if I were to go to the police and say this, even if you deleted that, there's all of that history that's still there. If you're with TELUS or something like that, they have records that they can pull. It's all backed up. Yeah, it's all
Your
backed
IP
up.
addresses.
All that stuff. And if anonymous, even with the anonymous apps, not so much with texting, because texting isn't anonymous, ones that you could just log in or not even log in, just go to the website and start talking with people, and there's no username attached to that. The kids think, well, nobody knows who I am, therefore I can say whatever I want. And if I take screenshots of that and I then go to the police can find out who you are and find out the computer that was used to have to put that out there. So that's why I say anonymous. They think it's anonymous, but they can always find out the who, what, when, how.
Yeah.
The way I would describe it is, like a social insurance number, your gadget has an IP address, and those two things follow you.
Wherever you go, and whatever you say. Exactly, no matter what site you go on to and how you do it. That's a great example.
So in your experience, are the police good about pursuing the kinds of things that people might have trouble
I
with?
can't really speak to that. I don't have any data on that. We don't have any statistics or anything on that. I don't.
They will follow up.
And I think they're learning more, just like everybody else.
Yeah. It's an ever-changing, revolving door to social media. What we're saying right now, we can go out there and
New app.
a new app could have popped up, your app could have changed something so that now you can go 10 kilometers. Like, it's always changing, so that's why it's important we keep on top of it as much as we can.
So maybe to rephrase the question, in your experience dealing with all the kids in the classrooms that you're going to, do kids have experiences where they really regret what they've done, they understand?
Absolutely. I was actually in the last session, told a story where we were talking a lot more about cyberbullying, and we were talking about the active and the passive, right? And we were talking about the kid that passes along the message, that just clicks share. And we were literally in a classroom where the girl literally broke into tears and walked out the door because she realized what she had done. Because they're not realizing the impact that they have by the actions that they're doing. And how it's impacting their future.
Yeah.
So it was, it was good to see, as sad as, I don't want to say that in a negative way, but I was glad to see that she felt remorse. It's just that she didn't know, right? She didn't realize that sharing it was like an accomplice to a crime, right? They just don't know, and I think that's why we are so passionate about trying to teach parents and kids, is that they just don't know the impacts of their actions. So in order to kind of be that leader and helping kids and helping their peers understand all of this, is leading by example. So if they understand what they're doing and the impacts that they're having, they can showcase that online so that their kids actually see that and they can talk to it. They can open up the conversations, because vacations, all this stuff in classrooms, in the school grounds, everyone's got phones and everyone's having these conversations. These conversations are very different than they had, 5 years ago. We weren't having these conversations. I didn't have to worry that my son's picture was going to be all over the internet because everybody's taking their different photos. So it's just a different world, for sure.
Our next ones are location-based again. So a lot of overlap with some of them. You'll see them in every little type of platform we've been describing, and that's because you can do all these different things. So you can share the videos, you can share the pictures, you can share locations, some are anonymous. So there has been some overlap with things. But the kids are using these to chat with people in their community. They're revealing a lot of personal information, again, because they think that it's anonymous. And they're also, with these ones that are location-based, wanting to meet up. So we really need to have that stranger danger online. We don't meet people we don't know. And change our conversations.
And unfortunately, there's videos of it that just show how easy it is.
Yeah.
How easy it is to get the kids to meet in a park or at a band or a local supermarket. So obviously a lot of, again, the behind the scenes stuff about messaging and texting and chat rooms as well. I know that my son is big into gaming right now, and Clash of Clans is big in our house right now. And he's actually having conversations in the chat rooms on the games. So this is having a huge impact with him as well, because he's talking, I say, make sure it's clan-related conversation. However, he'll be, oh, see you later at school, so-and-so, so he's referencing real names and stuff. So really making sure that he understands the impact that those conversations can have and how easy it is to find personal information based on even what you're saying within a game. So, in the chat rooms and
But
stuff.
isn't it a two-way street though? Because, and I'm thinking of my daughter, for example, who I went into the person, who I don't know, and she's like, oh, I'm just chatting or Skyping so-and-so, we're playing Minecraft, and I said, oh, this is not right for somebody, right? But, and the same thing, she's on PS4, she's playing Destiny with all these other people who, some do go to her school and some don't. But if something were to happen, we have all this information on our devices, know that if, God forbid, something were to happen, I could contact the police and we could find out who this.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is one thing we actually, I think we was like that, but it's one thing we actually emphasize as the reasons why parents should have the passwords, because your social footprint of what you just posted on social media might help you if you ever get into trouble. Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I tell my kids I need the passwords, not because I'm trying to be the nosy mom, I'm trying to keep you safe. And in today's world, that's how, because if, heaven forbid, anything ever happened, I can go find your phone.
Okay.
And there's lots of information in there, and at least I know who you talked to last, because we
Last-
say everything, right? We say where we are, who we're with, right? There's a place to start with the police, so absolutely, absolutely.
These ones in particular are known for cyberbullying. These platforms that are up here, the kids are sending videos, they're sending texts, they're doing question and answers like Ask FM, what Lisa is talking about, they're sending pictures. Again, a lot of them are anonymous, and the kids are doing it because they are anonymous and they really think that they can't be found.
What are they? Because I don't really don't know.
What are the names? Can you say the names?
Yeah, I have Instagram.
Yeah, so we have Instagram, Snapchat, that's obviously Ask FM, Peep,
Wanalo,
and
Twitter.
Wanalo.
Wanalo.
Yeah. So, obviously, just, again, I don't want to talk about too much about cyberbullying, but unfortunately, we cannot have a social media conversation without it. And these kids do feel very safe behind the screen.
Yeah, one thing we did tell the other group, and all the parents were shocked to learn this, is that if there is a cyberbullying incident, we don't want to go into it too much in this conversation, every school has a community police officer, and none of our parents in the last group realize that. They are there for the students as well as for you. So if you need to, go to the community school officer if you can't get to the police. And as soon as there's any threatening or harmful comment, you need to get to the police right away.
Because unfortunately, when you're behind a screen, it's easy for me to go up and go, I don't like you. I may not have the guts to do that, but behind the screen, I feel very safe to do that. And it's easy to press send to a message or press post or something along those lines. So it does lead to a lot, and cyberbullying is just a real big problem when we get brought in specifically for grade 7s and 8s. Is a very typical age that we get brought into, because that's sort of where the cyberbullying seems to be starting, and then in the high schools as well.
And a lot of that's because the kids don't understand, the kids don't know, they're just getting their phones, they're experimenting with all these platforms, and they truly think it's anonymous. So that's why there's the issue at that kind of grade level, is because they don't know.
But they do know the technology.
Yes.
Don't fool yourselves.
Yes.
They may not know the impacts that the social media is having, but they are extremely tech savvy, and we admit, they probably know more about the ins and outs of the specific apps than we do.
Yeah.
Because we're learning things every day, and my kids are showing me things that I didn't even know existed on some of these platforms. They're extremely tech savvy. And they're so tech savvy that they know how to do this, which is hide the apps behind another app. So that they think they're going, no, look, Mom, look at my phone. I only have Instagram and Facebook.
So if you look at your child's phones, iPads, iPods, whatever the device is, lots of times it looks like a calculator. If you click on the icons and it's asking you for a password, there is something behind those icons. So they can hide their pictures, they can hide Instagram accounts, social media accounts that you've told them not to have, they can hide them all behind them. Any icon that needs a password to log in is a vault, what we call a vault app. And there's something behind there hiding. So just make yourself aware that that's going on.
And it's just really important, again, to be sitting down with your kids, going through their phones, not relying on the fact that, no, I don't have this, that, and the other thing, it's okay. Because they might not, again, and that might be a sign, maybe there's something going on that they're trying to hide, or maybe they are being cyberbullied, or they've got some stuff that they think we're getting in trouble with. So it's just a really good idea to really sit down with them and understand what everything is on again, they're very tech savvy.
And just so you know, we don't tell the kids about this. It's just something we keep
Yeah.
to the parents.
Yeah, our presentations to the parents are a little bit different than the presentations to the kids, but we just want to make sure that all the parents are aware that this exists.
So what is the appropriate age to give access to these devices like phone or
I think that has to be your own family choice. You know your child, you know whether they're walking back and forth and how far they're going on their own and whether you want them to have that device or not. You know, we are seeing more and more babies being given devices to watch TVs and things like that. I was actually in the grocery store and I wanted to so badly take a picture, but it was of a little baby and the mom had a little selfie stick attached to the shopping cart in the buggy, and she was doing groceries as baby was watching some TV show to keep the baby entertained. And I thought, wow, what a world we've come to, that now this is what we're doing with our kids. So we're giving devices to the babies. Parents are actually holding Twitter handle names for their kids right now. So as soon as a baby's born, they're taking their names and holding those Twitter feeds for them because they say that's going to be our next biggest problem.
Or
kids
basing the kids'
Yeah,
names
names
on the fact that
whether
whether they can get the handle or not.
Yeah, and they say that that's going to be the next biggest issue is we're not going to have usernames for kids' names that want them.
So I do agree that it needs to be a parenting conversation now. In my own family, just as an example, I did allow my child to have an Instagram account at the age of 10, and the reason being is because at that age he still listens to me. So I wanted to actually teach him the proper way in the beginning, as opposed to waiting until he was older, and all of a sudden he's kind of playing catch up. So he's there, but I'm working on that with him. So again, it's your own family dynamics. I'm more of a parent that's, you know, wants to embrace it all. I'm a tech geek, love every social media platform out there. I post a lot, but not much. But I want to teach him to use it properly. So I feel that it's his world, it's our world of today. Keeping it from him, it's kind of like the schools will block certain feeds. Well, the kids know they can just get around and turn their Wi-Fi off and turn the data on. I know how to do all of that. So it's hard to answer that from a parenting perspective, but
one question for me is for that maybe that can we go without social media?
can we go without it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely can.
Absolutely. Your kids will.
Yeah. Kids will do it. And can I just tell you though, I know from experience with older kids who are finishing university who have never had anything as far as any social profile, they're actually having a hard time finding a job because everybody's searched and now they're going for job interviews and employers are saying, what's wrong with you? What are you hiding that we can't find anything about you? And we tell the kids to Google your name. We tell you guys, Google your name. Know what's online about you, the good and the bad, so that if you are in a situation where you're going for a volunteer position or you're looking at bringing a babysitter in or you're hiring somebody or the kids are trying to get that scholarship, know what's out there. So that if you made a mistake and you were having fun on a Friday night, and like we all did, and your friend posted a picture, you at least know that picture's there, and start pushing out the bad with some good. So start putting up some good pictures. We can help our kids. If you've got a high school student who wants that hockey scholarship, or the baseball scholarship, whatever it may be, offer to videotape them. Create some YouTube videos. The videos are actually very powerful on social media and they will really help push out the good with the bad. So offer to take some video of them on the ice, on the fields, wherever, and help them get rid of the bad so that when they are Googled, it's going to be the first thing. Know that it's there, be prepared that you maybe said, hey, you said that on your spare time you like to play sports and you volunteer here, but this picture isn't showing us that.
Right? Which is what you
So you got to be really careful. When you search your names, use different platforms. Put your name separately, use a hashtag beside your name, try putting your names in quotations, you get different results on everything. Use Bing, use Yahoo, use Google, do it with your names, do it with your kids' names. I quite often say to my kids, hey, let's see what happens when we put our names out. Try putting news, try putting it under pictures. When I put my name with pictures, my kids think it's hilarious because apparently I'm named after a Greek sheep. And so you see all of these sheep and then my head. That's absolutely hilarious to do it. When Stacy puts my name in on her page, I actually pop up higher with her name.
Search my name, she comes up higher.
I come up higher because we've been tagged in so many things together that when I do it on my own. So try playing around with it. Have some fun with your kids and see what comes up when you search your name. Social media doesn't have to be a negative. I follow the same groups my kids follow and things that my kids are interested, so that when we're sitting at the dinner table and we're having a conversation, I can say, hey, did you see what One Direction just put up there? Or did you see that so-and-so's doing this? Did you see that baseball catch that Pilar did? Like, it's awesome. And we can have some positive conversations so that when I need to say something negative, they're not going, here she goes again, right? Because I could be changing it. So I might be able to start the conversation on, hey, did you see what the Jays did last night and putting in this swing to it, or their music, or whatever it may be, but then I know where I want the conversation to go, and I can keep digging and change it till I get the conversation where I needed it to be, so I can say, hey, this happened too today, I saw this online, you guys need to be really careful because this is now what's going on, and that Snapchat just changed this. And we quite often have digital conversations in our home.
Okay. Did that answer your question at all?
Yeah, I think it was the.
Okay, something specific. So again, just we've talked about online games before, just because we're running out a little bit of time, so just want to move this along. But online gaming is still a very social platform. So we kind of sometimes in the parenting conversations think social media as Instagram, Snapchat, all of those ones, but the online games are very, very prevalent in today's world.
And we need to think too, sorry, just before you said that, how are we helping our kids create that online pattern? So every day they come home from school, they've done their homework, they've had their snack, and we're letting them go to the computer between 4 and 5 o'clock. We are creating that online pattern. So if there happens to be a predator, they start to realize what the pattern is. They know that every morning at 7 o'clock, so-and-so is on, they're on again at 4 o'clock, they're going to start to become their friend online. They're going to start to chit-chat online, they're going to start moving into some of the private chat rooms and gaming areas, and then they're going to start building that trust with our kids. Our kids do not understand, they take things for real. So if it says user 123 and he says I'm 10, they believe it's user 123 and they are 10. They don't understand that. It could be a 50-year-old man, it could be a 20-year-old female, they don't get that. We need to really have that conversation with the kids, and we need to change. You know what, yesterday at 4 you went on, so let's not go on right now. Let's try and change it up, and let's maybe go on after supper today. Let's go on first thing tomorrow morning. Let's change it up. Let's not try to go on it today. Why don't we have a board game and change how we're doing things? Let's try it together so that we're not creating a pattern and a habit that's easy to track and recognize.
Because unfortunately, of course, the predators are going to go, oh, okay, so I'm going to be on every day at 4 as well, and meet you, and blah, 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 and that's how that trust is built, so, for sure. On social media sites, and they are not found, unfortunately, the expectation of today's world is that everybody's on social media, so if your child is not found, they start to question. They start to go, well, how come you're not there? Even though that child just might want to be a little bit more private with what they're doing, but we as parents do have an impact and have the ability to impact our own child's digital footprint and their own future in regards to how they are found and what they are found, what is being found about them online. So really focusing on, again, just the activities. Doesn't have to be sports, but we always talk about the sports just because it seems very relevant. But again, I remember when I hired a babysitter, the first thing I did is I went to Facebook. And I searched her name, and I found out that she did lots of volunteer work, and I found out that she was in this theater group, and I found out all of the stuff about her, which was great. I'm like, okay, now I see that you're a real person and you do a lot of good stuff. Now I want you to be able to come and babysit my kids. So that was creating a very positive digital footprint for her that was going to carry her through when she goes to apply for jobs, when she goes on to university, all of that stuff. So it's really going to impact their university decisions, especially down the road. So really understanding vacation pictures, we really try to emphasize, especially with parents, we're really good at going, hey, I'm in the Dominican or I'm in Mexico. conversation that we need to be having as a family. We need to understand that Carrie and I are going on vacation together, and she doesn't want people to know when I do my selfie picture and I tag her in it, that all of her friends are going to see that as well. So really understanding that the friends at our kids level, at the adult level, at the teen level, we need to be having a conversation about what's okay to share. And if I don't want you to tag me in that, and then you're tagging me in that, that's not okay. So it's just a different level of conversation that we need to be having socially in regards to how that digital footprint is affecting and how that photo could be affecting. But again, there's lots of great stuff that they can do online. They can do research, playing games with their actual friends, as opposed to ones they think are their friends, homework or projects. Like, there's so many great opportunities to use social media in a very positive way.
There's no reason you can't post those vacation photos when you're home.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Once you return home, absolutely. Had a great time here, do blah, 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 blah. Great, I want to share all my vacation photos. Just do it. Absolutely, do it up.
Even if you check into a place, so if I go to Starbucks and I check in at Starbucks, it pops up on my social feed if that app is on. So even thinking about that when you're checking in at the hotel or whatever, even though you've decided as a family that you're not going to say anything that you're away, if you check in, you've now said you're away. So your house is open. So just making ourselves aware of what we're saying and really leading for our kids so that they can say, Mom, you said no phones at the table, why is your phone at the table? Right?
So lead by example.
Yeah, lead by example. Think about what we're putting out there about our own kids. What pictures are we sharing about our kids that we put their names into that are going to be found and searchable, right? Because what we put out there about our kids as well is going to be searchable when somebody's looking for them. And that's why I said it's important we Google learn to know what's out there and online.
It's also, again, just, what are they seeing us doing? You know, it's one thing to say, spend less time, screen time, all of that kind of stuff, don't post so much. So I can't be a hypocrite. I love social media. I'm online and I'm posting. So I can't tell my child not to post all of the personal stuff. So I have to be really careful of that balance as a parent and leading by example. So if I'm going to tell him, don't post, 5 minutes away, we're going to come on telling that. If I'm going to tell him not to do it, then I have to not do it. So I do allow him to do some stuff, but I have my location settings turned off, and we do that together. So it's about modeling the expectation for your kids as well, because I know sometimes as parents, we're like, oh, well, I'm going to check in everywhere, and I'm going to post all my stuff, and I'm posting that I'm on vacation, but don't you do it. So just be careful of your own actions and how that's impacting what your kids see.
Yeah.
You know, as you described yourself, I'm the total opposite. I'm like the cute woman or something.
No, we are not the norm for our
So
demographics.
really, truly, I remember with the big takeoff of social media around 2005, 2006, I literally buried myself. I'm like, what's this? I'm not living my life out in the public like that. And because of that, I totally got left behind. And I was never interested in it or whatever's going on. But now that I have young children, I'm like, oh my God, I need to catch up.
Yeah.
So I'm playing catch up, not that I'm going to open like a million things, account to, it's so hard to keep track of and all that. But my question is, not that, you know, I see your business as being very critical, but what's the plan for the future to weave all of this into the curriculum? Because the proliferation of social media and all things digital and out there, it surrounds us.
Yeah.
But I think that the school system and every other system is slow to catch up.
Well,
So
they're embracing it. The
it.
schools are
Schools are
embracing
embracing it.
They are using Twitter to communicate with their kids. I know kids who are coming into grade 6 classrooms and setting up Twitter accounts for their teachers to be able to communicate with them. They're definitely embracing the technology and social media, and they're actually using it to communicate with parents. And that has become almost a primary way to communicate from teachers to parents, from schools to parents, how to interact with your school, for the students to be able to interact with the teacher. They've definitely embraced it, and it is becoming part of the curriculum that they understand how to use this. And the whole bring the IT to school, they're expecting that the kids have these accounts, and that's how they're they're building that into their everyday life.
As far as what the board's plan is for curriculum, that we don't know. We don't sit on a curriculum board yet, you might be able to help as well. But,
Kelly, you've been
yeah. Maybe we should say it more, Kelly. Yeah, but so that we understand why you know the answers. But as social media starts to evolve and grow more, you're gonna find that there's more and more with the schools doing it. So you can ask your principal, what's the school's social media policy? What's the teacher's social media policy? Are the teachers using it for personal and professional and meshing the two together? Are they only putting this year's class? Is it private account? Is it open for everybody to see? These are questions you need to be asking your schools and your principals so that you understand how the schools see it working and you understand how it works. But if you don't understand how these platforms work yourself, then you're going to run into trouble because you're not going to be able to keep up with where your kids are and what they're doing. So all I say is, if you don't want to open up and use Twitter, no problem. Don't use it. Don't, but at least read and understand the platform so that you understand how the kids are using it, what the kids are doing with it. And if you don't want to post on it, don't post, right? But understand what those platforms are. Understand that there's anonymous apps, understand that they can share video, understand they can share pictures, understand that there's some that are location-based, so that when the kids are coming to you and they've got a question, you might be able to answer it. Or at least send them in the direction. You know what? Your principal knows Twitter inside and out, your teacher knows it, they're using it, they're embracing it. Let's go ask the teacher to help us.
Right, your kids are doing everything. Twitter seems to be probably the more popular one, and Kelly can probably speak to that as well, in regards to what the schools are using.
Yeah.
Well, they're using Twitter, some are using a little bit of Facebook. Facebook is becoming passe, especially for the kids.
Yeah.
Parents tend to use it more than.
It's because the moms are on it.
The kids still are using Facebook, but they're using it as private messaging to hook up and connect with their friends, or to communicate with grandma who lives overseas and putting pictures on family and things like that. They're not using it the way we use it, but they are still on it.
And I think Snapchat's becoming a piece too, because it's more about pictures.
Yeah.
But digital citizenship is really the real focus of the board, trying to teach, again, the safe usage and responsibility, because if things happen at school, there are repercussions, and the principals have to deal with those things. And even if something happens outside of school, but it is a reflection of something at school, that can still have consequences at school. They could still be, principal may still have to deal with those students. So it's the digital citizenship is being built into a lot of the curriculum so that students understand the repercussions about using it inappropriately, and it's about teaching safe usage.
And you're seeing more sports organizations do that as well. I know Oakville Soccer Club had an incident in the summer where some words were exchanged on the field. After the game was over, one of the players found that person's same color team jersey. It was not an Oakville Soccer Club jersey, and put a picture up on Instagram saying their person's number, forever hate, and some other things about it, used hashtags, and unfortunately, that, well, actually it was a good thing because it set the precedence and a bunch of the girls realized this, and the player got suspended for doing it because that girl took the picture that she found and took it back to the club, and they suspended that player. So you're going to find more and more as it grows and evolves and the kids are on it more and more. These organizations, the schools, we're all going to have to start developing some social media policies.
For sure. So just to leave you, we're just out of time. So this is the sort of thing we ask kids to just take a moment before they post, just to be able to think about what they're doing. True, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. I would say the necessary one is probably the one that I use the most. I'm like, really? Is that necessary? No. Okay, then then maybe not. Just to be able to stop it.
And this is something that the schools do use with the kids. This Think Rule, they use it in the Bravo program, which is the grade 6 Old Dare program, where the police come into the schools and talk to the kids. So the kids are familiar with the Think Rule. We just created a little bit of an image and put more of a social media swing into it for them. But they definitely know the think rule. If you were to say the think rule at home, they would know it.
And that's us. So we, just, if you want to follow us on social media, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, we share a lot of parenting tips, we share a lot of social media tips, anything that relates to keeping kids safe online, articles, anything that we can find, we definitely share it with other people, so.
Can I attest to
We do write some blogs for tween girls for an online magazine. We write some parenting blogs for parenting online magazines as well, and we share theirs on all of our platforms. So yeah, if you want to connect, we're there. We've got some flyers if anybody would like to take back to the school. We have online parenting webinars, so you can go on and do our webinars. We're going to be introducing some PA day camps as well, and we do different programmings within the community.
Does anybody have any last questions?
Actually, one quick one. Just if you really want your kid to set up something anonymously, like truly anonymously, which one would be the best one?
I guess I'd have to understand what the purpose of it was.
It's more or less so that someone can get their trace back. There's nothing.
No, there's nothing out there where you can create an account that's truly anonymous.
Okay, that's good.